I thought with the new theme music, the intro to each episode was going to have a new piece as well. However, it's the same as Book 1. The episode wastes no time in continuing the story. Mirror Tulip and Jessie stare into the hole the deer fell down into last episode. Mirror Tulip blaming Jessie for the ridiculous name for the deer, to which Jessie doesn't care, but updates the deer's name in his phone. Turns out he not only has a lot of animal friends, but he's named them all Dracula for some reason. Mirror Tulip doesn't care and starts digging. Jessie is pretty impressed at their strength, wondering why they don't hurt. Being made out of metal, they aren't as fragile as Jessie would be, to which Jessie just agrees with it. Mirror Tulip goes down the hole. At first, Jessie is scared too, being mortal and all, but starts to inch down. Inside, they find a tree with people's faces carved into it. Because of the name of the car, I'm calling this the family tree. The first two faces say hi and want to know their names. Jessie introduces himself without hesitation, while Mirror Tulip remains silent until being pushed into it. They simply say MT. Having their mission only being on the deer, they ask, "Have you seen this deer?" To which the faces say nope and proceed to introduce themselves. Both have 7 greats in their name. I can see the first one, Wilbur, saying it, and then MT going, "We don't have time for this," and then storms off. But now even Sonnet is introduced with 7 greats, and she even says 7 Gs for short. Just made me feel like they didn't have a lot of ideas for this episode, so they had to pad it out in this way. Both of them introduce this tree as the Gillicuddy tree, when another voice says it's the Trundleshack family tree. Basically, they had a feud in the family due to 2 families combining at one point. Jessie tries to ask the Trundleshank, but Wilbur doesn't allow it. MT then boldly says they will talk to whoever they want. Jessie suggests a compromise, but neither go for it. MT uses their metal body to break on through the tree to find the deer. Jessie follows, wondering why they were so rude. They simply state they were rude first. Jessie comes up with the idea of combining the families together, and maybe they will help find the deer. MT doesn't care, as this feud has been going on for 100 years. Jessie then states he's friends with everyone, even the weirdos that collect eraser shavings. I love how he brings up that particular detail. MT still doesn't care, and sees no reason why to fit in with everybody else. Jessie wants to know their story. They tell it from the perspective of Tulip just being their best friend, and then wanting to separate, as their parents wanted MT to be just like Tulip. Sort of the same story, but nothing about running away from the law. Jessie says that's cold, to which MT says, "This is why I like the deer." The deer listens without question. As the argument gets fierce, the tree starts to grow thicker around them, with Jessie's feet seemingly becoming the tree. So this is a weird one. One of my greatest nightmares, aside from intense gore, is turning into a tree. The idea you'd be stuck there, unable to run, exposed to the elements, alone, unable to have anybody help you, unable to scream as the parasites invade your body, unable to seek help when you start to get chopped down, being blown down from a great storm only to still be alive, waiting for the sweet embrace of death. This was a nightmare I had as a kid. After having it, I whipped off the covers just to be certain that I still had feet rather than roots that dug straight into the ground. This imagery still haunts me to this day. That might seem like a dark detour, but here is why I bring it up. That may seem like a dark detour, but here's the reason why I bring it up. It looks as if Jessie is becoming part of the tree in this argument. His feet start to turn in the wood, but only briefly. He walks away from MT and tries to connect to the families. If he wasn't able to walk away from this, I probably would have been petrified. MT goes on trying to find the deer, only to hear another family rival story. Jesse doesn't fare much better, since he wants both sides to not only like each other, but to like him as well. Each wants him to pick a side, and neither want to compromise. They both bump into each other again, where they argue even more. This time, though, it really looks like Jesse is becoming part of the tree, and it gets kind of unsettling. However, they find that kindness and forgiveness stops the growth. Luckily, the tree doesn't care about sincerity, though. They go around complimenting each other until they make it to the base of the tree. At the base, both yell out for the deer when they hear suction cups in the distance. Turns out, the deer has transformed its feet to start walking up the tree. In the antlers, they ride up to the top. Here, MT says the deer can be named Alan Dracula. And I'm not gonna lie, I was just as disappointed as MT was in saying that. They also offer their services in lowering Jesse's number. When he's gone, they can stay with the deer forever. Being at 32 seems pretty easy, but since they started at 31, this isn't too promising. That is where the episode ends. While I had a lot more to say about this one, I honestly found this episode to be quite dull. Aside from that imagery of turning into a tree, it felt very much padded for time, focusing more on dialogue than much else. The jokes are still pretty good, but I'm putting this episode down there with the Quartz car. It serves the story, but I just found it very dull. Hopefully the map car will turn out to be a better episode. I hope you'll join me then.